Okay, so we'll set our intention. I'll read through 2 stanzas from Shantideva's Bodhisattva's Way of Life. And while I'm reading that, you can just place your mind into an attitude of wishing well for yourself and for all sentient beings. May I be a protector for those without one, a guide for all travellers on the way. May I become a bridge, a raft or boat for all who wish to cross the water. May I be an isle for those desiring landfall, and a lamp for those who wish for light. May I be a place of comfort for those who need to rest, and a servant for all who live in need. Okay, so the title for today's talk is Life, Death, Devotion and Liberation. So it's all the big ones, all the big things. So this is a set of pith instructions given to Jamyang Tenphel by Togden Amtrin, who was a great Drukpa yogi and Dzogchen master. And they are pith instructions on a practice that is known in Tibetan as Lama Khyenno. So Lama Khyenno is most often translated as kind teacher, know me, or loving teacher, be aware of me, or even kind teacher, bless me. So the Tibetan phrase has aspects of all of those English translations on the outer level. It has multiple levels, outer, inner, secret, the usual things, Vajrayana practice. The outer level is the student, which is us, calling to the teacher. I'll go into the other levels, the deeper levels later. So the English version of the outer Lama Khyenno that we'll be using today, that we're going to be practicing today, is Lama, be with me now. Lama, be with me now. So those are the words transmitted to Jamyang by Togden Amtrin. And they have an added aspect that the other English translations don't have, which is this aspect of protection. The kind of like the refuge aspect. And that protection is the main role of a Dharma teacher. So often we think a Dharma teacher is about giving us information, about teaching us how to be clever, about teaching us practices, about helping us to gain insight. Those things are true, yes, but actually in the Vajrayana tradition, the Tibetan Buddhist tradition, the main role of the teacher is to protect the student from what? Mostly from themselves, but from the suffering of samsara, from the vagaries of our existence, from the mistakes we make because we're trapped in dualistic mind, from the harm we feel as a natural result of being in this samsaric realm, which is permeated by suffering and dissatisfaction. So the Lama's main role is not to give us information, but to protect us. And the main way they protect us is by showing us how to protect ourselves through the practices. Okay, so this practice that we're talking about, Lama Khyenno, in Tibet, and especially in the Kagyu traditions, Karma Kagyu tradition very strongly, but in all traditions really, Lama Khyenno is a daily practice for everyday average Tibetans. It's not a highfalutin fancy practice. It's actually a very everyday practice for ordinary people. So everyday ordinary Tibetans would recite Lama Khyenno multiple times during each day, and especially on waking up, on going to sleep, and if they're facing any challenges, any sort of difficulties. So despite how widespread the practice is, it's seriously underrated and actually not very understood even by, these average people who are doing it every day. They do it as an act of faith and devotion, which is actually all you need, really, for it to work. But it has a profound and deeper meaning, which we're going to talk about today. So before we go deeper, I want to give a little bit of a overview, a helicopter kind of a view, and situate this simple practice in terms of the whole thing, the whole Dharma vehicle of Vajrayana. So this practice, Lama Khyenno, is the heart essence of Vajrayana. It's the absolute core of Vajrayana and of Dzogchen. It's the essential practice for our everyday life. It also happens to be the heart essence of the Bardo or power practices that we do at the time of death. So it's both. It's living and dying. It helps us in our daily life, connects us to our true nature, and it helps us when we're dying to connect with our true nature in that moment and thus be free. So Lama Khyenno is quite literally the only practice we need. Literally, like I'm not being figurative in any way, shape or form. It's the only practice we need when done in a specific sort of way, which I'm going to explain. So this very simple practice will carry us from birth to death to liberation, seamlessly, effortlessly, with a great deal of like joy and calm on the way. It's very, very beautiful. So all we need to engage with this practice, there are no empowerments required. There are no prerequisites required. All we need is to be open-minded about the practice itself, about our capacity to do it, and also we need to be able to give it a chance. We need to give it a chance. So in terms of an overview, I think that's it. So I just want to emphasize a little bit about why do this practice. This will take a little while for me to unpack. So first off, what have we got to lose? I mean, really, we have nothing to lose by doing this. Also, many of us are a bit long in the tooth. Apologies to people who are my age or older, but it's true. We are a little long in the tooth. And we may not have time to accomplish the formal Bardo or power practices, any of them. There's a number, there's Stream Yoga, illusory form yoga, illusory body yoga, and power. We might not have the time, and probably don't have the time to accomplish those formal practices. We may not even have the time to accomplish some real stability in meditation, which is another way to be free. Given, that we are certain to die, this is a fact. It is very uncertain when that will happen, when we will die. This very simple practice gives us the opportunity to achieve liberation at the time of death and bring some calm, clarity, and joy to our lives, like right now. It's one of very few practices that are total bypass of all of the other complex, elaborate, difficult practices. It's one of the very few practices that completely bypasses that. So we really can't wait. We will die. We do not know when we will die. We may not have another day left. There may not be another day for us. So on top of that, the precariousness of our existence. This may well be our last human birth if we don't do something. We tend to assume or believe or trust that we will always be human, but that is not at all true. We could just as easily be reborn as cattle, sheep, or jellyfish. We do not know what our future holds. We don't know where our buried habitual tendencies will lead us. we only have a sense of the very topmost layer, kind of gossamer thin layer, surface layer of our mind's habits. That's all we can really see. We have no idea what lies in the deep of our mind. Anything could be there. Any habits at all could be there. And those habits could lead us literally anywhere into any kind of existence. We cannot trust that because we have a human body now and a workable mind and live in a place where there is Dharma, that this will always be true. We cannot trust that. In fact, it's really unwise to trust that. So we need to practice now. We need to do what we can. I've already mentioned that we won't have time probably to do all these complicated practices. Even with meditation, we probably won't have time to really accomplish it. For those of us from my age or older. So this is a surefire, easy to accomplish. Nothing's really easy, but easy or simple practice that will get us there, that will give us a way out of the cycle, the samsaric cycle of birth, suffering, sickness, old age, death, rebirth, suffering, and on and on and on and on like that. Okay? So, why is the moment of death so important? For those of you who've been in other talks I've given about the Bardo, you'll understand, you'll get it. For those of you who have not, and who are maybe new to Dharma, new to Tibetan Buddhism in particular, the time of dying, at the time of dying, all the bondage of the dualistic mind and all the constraints of the body fall away. So, and those are our prisons, the dualistic mind and the constraints of the body. They are our prisons. And so when they fall away, when the body dies and the senses all collapse, then the dualistic mind has nothing upon which it can be based. So it also dissolves, right? All dissolves. All that's left is a very subtle awareness. Very subtle. And that awareness, if we've prepared properly while we're alive, is able to recognize the Buddha nature. And on recognition of the Buddha nature, we're free. We're liberated. It's just that recognition. That's all it is. So our true nature, what we call Buddha nature, is uncovered in the process of dying. So it's revealed in the process of dying and dawns, literally dawns as a wonderful luminosity, a light, but only for a second. So it dawns just for a second, but then the habits of our mind cover it up again, and then we're pushed into our next rebirth, our next cycle of suffering. So this particular practice, Lama Khyenno, is the easiest and actually most potent way to make the most of that opportunity when that pristine, luminous, ultimate nature, the self-perfected non-dual state rises naturally at the time of death. This practice seizes that opportunity, makes death not something awful, but something wonderful, and enables us to become liberated. So as our true nature dawns in that moment, we are able to recognize it, and then there's freedom. So this is a really important moment, death. Very important moment. Not the whole of the death process, just that one moment is really potent and powerful and important. Okay, so obviously, Lama Khyenno is a devotional practice. At this time in the West, devotional practice is very much out of fashion. Indeed, it's treated with suspicion. That's a tragedy and a shame. And it's largely because in the West, we misunderstand what devotion is and what the point of what we call guru yoga is. So To explain this, talk about the word in Tibetan for devotion, which is mogu. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. It means yearning for the truth, or more precisely, it means yearning to be one with the ultimate nature. It doesn't mean being a fan of a celebrity teacher, buying their books and going to their teachings and thinking they're fantastic and without flaw. In fact, that's the direct opposite. And it doesn't mean slavishly doing what someone says, what a teacher says. It doesn't mean that at all. It's quite simply an opening of the heart, a surrendering of the ego in the openness and warmth of the heart, and using the teacher, for whom we should have some gratitude and respect because they are teaching us the Dharma, as the focus of that opening and surrender. But the human teacher is a starting point only, it's just the beginning. At some point, our own true nature will awaken, and that it will become our ultimate teacher. And that actually is the inner meaning of Lama, be with me now. It means to connect with our pristine nature and have that as our guide. The deepest meaning, beyond that even, of Lama, be with me now, is to merge with that ultimate nature that we use as our guide and actually become the true guide for suffering sentient beings. So in that merging, there's no longer like me and the teacher or you and the teacher. There's just bodhicitta, which is the awakened mind of compassion, which is Buddha. So the deepest meaning of Lama, be with me now, is to awaken as Buddhas. So it has those outer, inner, and deep or secret meanings. Outer is just calling to the human teacher, relying on the human teacher to awaken our heart and enable a surrender to that heart. The inner meaning is that awakened heart is actually our ultimate guide. And then the most profound meaning is that the guide and ourselves are one. So you might have noticed that in this phrase, Lama, be with me now, we've retained one word in Tibetan, which is Lama. And there's a reason for that. So the word Lama itself is, Jamyang described it as bonded with the natural state. So one with the natural state. So we don't actually need to know what the word means in a literal sense or to speak Tibetan. That being said, the word is actually quite interesting. It's a union of male and female, and so it indicates the non-dual state. La is masculine, it indicates form, matter. Ma is feminine, often literally translated as mother, and indicates emptiness or unborn and undying potentiality. La also indicates the radiance of emptiness. So wisdom or radiance or emptiness has this radiance, which is compassion and skillful means. And then Ma is that wisdom, which is, of course, our natural awareness, our natural state. So Lama also means the union of compassion and wisdom. It means so much, that one little word, and more even than that, actually. So if we're going to use the word Lama as a mantra, which we are going to, it could mean something like, we don't want to get stuck on a meaning. We understand why we don't really need to hold on to tightly to a specific meaning. But it could mean Lama awakened to the natural radiance of the non-dual state of pristine awareness. Lama means a lot. So again, I'll just repeat, the word Lama and pristine awareness, which is our natural state, are one, non-dual. There's no gap. And the word and the sound and the feeling of that word are imbued with power to evoke our fundamental nature and to give rise to the self-perfected natural state, which we call Dzogchen in Tibetan. Now, it has gained that power to give rise to that state, to give rise to awakening, enlightenment, not through magic. There's no magic here, although it's quite magical in a way, but over many lifetimes of our own practice. Many lifetimes of our own practice. We may not feel any connection with that word in this life, like right now, but this is not our first rodeo. To even hear the word Dzogchen means we have practiced deeply in the past, probably over many lifetimes. So on a fundamental, non-verbal level, our nature knows what the word Lama means and knows the state, Dzogchen, that the word points to. So, with some repetition in this life, Lama, be with me now. Lama, be with me now. Amma, be with me now. It will inevitably evoke that state. Guaranteed. Our practice from previous lives will hold us in good stead. But we can't rest on our laurels. Until we are Buddhas, we can fall backwards. Until we are Buddhas, we can make all kinds of mistakes and we can go astray. We can get lost again. So that's why, though we have this Buddha nature, this true nature within us, we need to practice. More to the point, we cannot awaken our Buddha nature in one lifetime without devotion to the teacher. That's really important. There are other ways to awaken to our true nature, but they all take eons, literally almost forever, like forever. Devotion, yearning to be one with the natural state, because it uses our natural propensity for externalizing, for projecting outwards, and our very strong familiarity and attachment to dualistic relationships. It's very quick. It uses those ordinary things about us to free us. In the Vajrayana Tantra, there's this very interesting little sentence. Use that which brings us down to raise ourselves up. So our dualistic tendency to project outwards and our attachment to emotion and feeling and relationships, they bring us down. They trap us in dualism, in states of suffering. So we use that very potent energy to free ourselves. It's very clever, very, very clever indeed. So because of that, the amount of energy in that already within us, devotion is very quick. Guru Yoga is very quick, super quick. This lifetime, quick, whereas all the other methods take more than one lifetime at least, mostly many, many, many lifetimes. So just to sort of emphasize that point a little bit, it's actually natural for us to have this kind of relationship, the kind of relationship we have with a teacher. If we look at how much we love our family, our partners, our children, and our pets, we can see it's quite natural for us to have this kind of, this level, this intensity of feeling. And it's quite natural to us to feel that way. The relationship with the Guru, however, is not about ordinary gratification or any kind of attachment. It's about liberation and becoming a true guide and helper to suffering beings. It has a very similar feeling to those other kinds of relationships, but because it's bent completely to a very different purpose, which is to benefit sentient beings and free ourselves, it will evolve. It does evolve until it completely transcends ordinary feelings. Ordinary feeling, ordinary love and affection are a pale shadow of true devotion. They are not bad things. Affection is good, love is good, kindness is good. But they are a pale shadow of true devotion. So one of the very interesting things about this practice, Lama, be with me now, is that we do not actually need a living teacher right now. I know many people are always saying or feeling or thinking, I don't have a teacher. I don't have a teacher, I want to find a teacher. There's often people have this like quite intense and quite almost desperate search for a teacher. This practice actually, because it's deeper than an external living teacher, doesn't require you to have a living teacher right now. If we have one, that's great. If not, it will actually still work. And what's the reason for that? Again, because this is not our first rodeo. Not our first rodeo. We have a Lama. Every one of us has a Lama. Whether we've met them in this life or not, we have a Lama. We could not actually be interested in Vajrayana Buddhism, this form of Buddhism, unless we had teachers in the past, unless we had Lamas in the past. So I'm just going to quote Jamyang here for a minute. The past is as real as the present in the empty nature of reality. Past, present, and future are one in timeless awareness. So the Lama is already in your heart, even if you have not met them in this life yet. You might not meet them for a year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, but past, present, and future, they're nothing in the face of timeless awareness. The Lama is already there. Your Lama is already there. So this practice, repeating Lama, be with me now, or even just the word Lama, it will work. It will evoke that state, that natural state, that the result of yearning to be one with the ultimate truth, the ultimate nature. And also, if you have not met your Lama in this life, to do this practice, Lama, be with me now, it will bring you and your Lama together. It will awaken that connection and allow you to find your teacher. So win-win, really. You don't need a teacher right now, but it will bring your teacher to you if you don't already know them. So we don't need to worry if we don't have a teacher right now. You don't need one to do this practice. Your or our natural awareness will know what to do without us, actually. Us being the dualistic mind, the person we think we are. Our natural awareness knows what to do, despite that, actually. Our natural perfection, our true nature, recognizes the symbolic and literal power of the word Lama from our past connections with spiritual masters, and it will guide us, and it will make the practice beneficial for us. Again, we can trust in our past practice. We can trust that realized beings have laid down a path that works. So it's important that we trust our own natural awareness and that it will know what to do without us having to intervene or worry about anything at all, either in life or at the time of death. So both. Right now, we're wanting to awaken our heart in life. That's the goal of all Dharma, awaken the heart. So our life practice, our daily practice is, Lama, be with me now, in order to awaken the heart. At the time of death, we want to recognize our true nature and be free. That time, Lama, be with me now, or just more simply, Lama, Lama, Lama. And our own nature will know what to do. We don't need to worry. We just need to say the words. It's really very simple. So I will talk about now how to actually do it. So that's all the background, all of the instruction, a little bit more instruction about how to actually do it. So it's profoundly simple, as I said at the beginning, but don't let that fool you into thinking it's not a potent practice or cause you to undervalue it. This is very special. It is precious. Having a sense of its preciousness is not essential, actually, but it doesn't hurt. So I'll break this down, the how to do it, into two parts. How to practice every day, a daily or life practice, and then how to practice this at the time of dying, at the time of death. So in terms of every day, we recite Lama, be with me now. Lama, be with me now. Lama, be with me now. The minimum we would do it is probably, 7 times. I just did it 3 times and I felt my mind change. But, minimum 7 times. And it's a good idea if you have a mala. This is one of my old malas. This is a bone one, which is not necessarily exactly the kind of one you want. Any kind of mala is fine. Count on the mala 7 times through 7 repetitions. So you don't have to worry about the counting. Your hand just does the counting and you just do the 7. There are these little counters you can get, which you can put on your mala at the point of 7 or 21 or however many you want to do. You also could do a whole mala with repetitions 108. That would be fine too. It's not about how many repetitions though. It's about, or how much time you spend. The point is to do each repetition with an open mind and an open heart. The rest will just take care of itself. You can do it especially when you're going to sleep and waking up. Those are important times in Dharma practice, particularly Bardo practice, preparation for death type practice. But any time is fine. You can do it any time. In the car, in the shower, anywhere, anytime. It is fine. Then after reciting Lama, be with me now, then we stay in shamatha or meditation, even if just for a few minutes. So literally it would be Lama, be with me now. Lama, be with me now. Lama, be with me now. And then into a little moment of shamatha. And just sit a few minutes or more. The time, again, doesn't really matter. The point is the warmth, the openness. So just a little bit about that. So the gap in meditation is the natural state itself. It is the Lama. So the recitation is invoking the Lama, and then shamatha is making a space for them to make the presence known, clearing the way. So in time, you'll be able to reduce the phrase down to just Lama. You'll know when it's right to do that. You can do that actually straight off, but you will know when it's really right to do that. When every time you say Lama, be with me now, you feel some change in the mind, even if very subtle. There'll be joy or a feeling of safety or simple calm. But actually don't worry about it. None of that happens because it might happen, but whatever happens might be so subtle that your dualistic mind can't detect it. Just saying the words is enough. Lama, be with me now. Lama, be with me now. Lama, be with me now. And then brief connection to the breath. Okay, so that's very simple, isn't it? It's one sentence said a few times a day, but it has potent impact. So it's a good idea to do it. So then how to practice at the time of death. So because we've been practicing it every day, by the time we die, hopefully, it will be quite natural at the time of dying to call on the Lama. Lama, be with me now. Or simply just say Lama. It'll be so ingrained in us that we'll not have to think about doing it at all. It will just be automatic, like walking or breathing, just completely spontaneous and effortless, almost happening by itself. And so as we are dying, or when we're dying, we just simply repeat Lama, 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 over and over again, very gently, and let all fears and worries go. The process will actually take care of itself. There's nothing else we need to do. Our own fundamental nature will know what to do. The Lama will come. That protection will be granted without doubt. So if we die suddenly, like if we're hit by a bus, we won't have time to even do that. But once we're in the Bardo, which is when the dualistic mind's gone, the senses are gone, the body is essentially dead, there's still that subtle awareness left, and then we can recite Lama in the Bardo. Lama, Lama, Lama. And then very gently, just rest with that. Because the word Lama and the natural state are one, as I pointed out before, there's a much greater likelihood that we will recognize a natural state when it arises at the time of death. I would suggest that it's actually not just a likelihood, that it's a near certainty. So when that luminosity rises, we'll recognize it because it has the same taste, the same feel as the feeling or the taste we get from doing the Lama Khyenno practice during the day, every day. So even if our dualistic mind's never recognized or experienced anything while we were alive, underneath the dualistic mind, the natural state was there, and it was linked to the word Lama. So without knowing it, by repeating, Lama, be with me now, Lama, be with me now, Lama, 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 we're getting this constant taste of the non-dual state. So again, to repeat, when we die and the dualistic mind falls away, all that will be left is that taste, that experience. And by simply saying Lama, we'll recognize its counterpart, which is the full blossoming of the self-perfected natural state when it arises. So once the body's dead, senses are gone, dualistic mind is gone, the self-perfected natural state rises, dawns as a literal luminosity. And then the recognition will come. And because we've been doing this, Lama, be with me now, Lama, be with me now, Lama, be with me now, the recognition will come more naturally and easily. And the word Lama itself will act like a beacon for our pristine awareness, calling that awareness to recognize itself and merge with itself. A bit like a face recognizing itself in the mirror. So when we look in the mirror, there's instant recognition. There's no effort to recognize. We know who that is. As soon as we look, there is our face. It's like that. No gap, just instant recognition. And then we'll merge with that state and be fully liberated. And there's no effort required to merge with that state. The recognition in itself is the merging. So it's just recognizing. And the union happens automatically. And merging and naturally abiding with awareness at the time of death breaks the bonds of cyclic existence. No more hope of fear, just a state of perfection. Pain will transform into bliss and fear will self-liberate. And that's meant literally. That's not metaphorical. Actual physical pain will transform into bliss, and any fear or panic that's there will self-liberate. It'll just be awareness. So to put it another way, just so we can get our heads around that, reciting Lama, and Lama be with me now, at the time of death, connects us to our Buddha nature at that crucial moment, the most important moment in our entire existence, so that we can recognize and become one with that nature. So that's it in a nutshell. No more samsara, no more miserable rebirths. It's kind of marvelous. Ema ho, as the Tibetans say, which means how wonderful, how amazing. So at the very, very least, this practice will help us to achieve a precious human rebirth, which means to be born with human mind and in a place where the Dharma is taught. It doesn't mean to be born rich or with perfect health or with no one irritating us. It means to be born with a workable mind and in a place where there's Dharma. And even if we don't know the Lama now, even if you don't have a Lama now, it's wise to do this. Make Lama your only mantra and feel confident that not only will it lead to a good death, peaceful, calm, even joyous death, but perfect liberation. To recite Lama with joyful anticipation. So, death becomes not something that we fear, becomes something that we're keen to experience, not like we're rushing headfirst. It will come in its own time, it has its own trajectory, but we don't fear it anymore. It'll be something that we're aware is an opportunity for freedom. So there's no point being afraid of that. And in the meantime, doing this every day, it will enrich our lives immensely because it opens the heart. When the heart is open, there's no fear, there's no hope, there's no grasping, there's no attachment. There's just, the big four: joy, love, compassion, humanness. So that's it. So there are other practices like this that are floating around, practices that are simple and are considered to contain the entirety of Vajrayana. Two of them are the Vajraguru Mantra and the 7-line prayer to Guru Rinpoche, which some of you may be familiar with. Those are two very potent but brief practices. They are said to be everything, the whole path, in these simple practices. And this practice, I think, is just like them, only in our own language, easier, and actually I think a bit more accessible because it is in our own language, mostly in our own language. Okay, so as I said initially at the beginning, these instructions were given to Jamyang Tenphel by Togden Amtrin. Jamyang gave them to me, but we're not the only people advocating this practice. As I said, it's widely done in Tibet. There are other lamas that have taught about the importance of Lama Khyenno at the time of death, such as our own beloved Namgyal Rinpoche. But as far as we know, these instructions from Togden Amtrin are quite unique. They are simple and free of cultural trappings, other than the word Lama, which is Tibetan, of course. It's very suitable for practicing in the West, when you're busy, when you have a life, when you have all kinds of responsibilities. Okay. So I think we'll take a short break and then come back and do a run through of the practice. Short run through, maybe 10 minutes or something like that. And then we'll have a question and answer period after that. So I'll just pause the recording. Okay, so we're back from our break and we'll run through the practice now. So it's very, very simple. If you have a mala, use a mala. The only reason, like this is this is not an essential piece of equipment, really, unless you're a traditional Vajrayana practitioner, in which case it is actually an essential piece of equipment. But some kind of way to count so that you're not distracted by the counting. That's all this is, and you use it to keep track of how many you're doing so that you don't focus on that while you're actually doing the practice itself. These are widely available. If you don't know where to get one, contact me and I can help you find one if you don't already have one. Most of you probably have one. I have little counters on mine that are at certain points, the 21 point. So when I get to that counter, I know to hit 21, I can, so that's if I'm just doing very short accumulation. And then obviously I've got another one at the other end, which tells me a different number, and then the whole one tells me the whole number. Anyway, so we'll just do 7. Again, I would always start by setting my intention, which is our own benefit, but also adjusting our benefit or adjusting our intention or expanding our intention to include all sentient beings, as you know, we want to help them as well. That's all. We can just sit with that for a minute, set our intention. And at the end, we would always dedicate, because it's important to, at the beginning and the end, remind ourselves this is an altruistic activity. That's all the, you know, the dedication of the dedication of merit is, or the motivation at the beginning. They're just reminding us that this is our altruistic activity at the beginning and the end. And hopefully by doing that at the beginning and the end, then throughout the practice, we're remembering that. We're aware this is an altruistic activity. Okay, so I do this practice with my eyes open and closed. I haven't noticed a difference between the two, but you may. So try eyes open, try eyes closed. If you're planning to do it like in the car or in the shower or you're walking, maybe start eyes open so that then it's not jarring to do it with your eyes open. But if you're planning to always do this in a sort of, you know, on the cushion, you can do it eyes closed. It's up to you. Really, it really is okay to do it either way. So we'll do 7. Then we'll pause and rest in shamatha for a little bit, a minute or two, a couple of minutes, and then we'll dedicate. So go, you can repeat along with me. It needs to be done, I think, out loud at the beginning, and then it can be silent if you want. It's up to you. I do it out loud half of the time and silent half of the time. You know, I think there's not much of a difference from what I can tell for me. Okay. Lama, be with me now. 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 And we'll just sit. Okay. So that was very short, but really that's enough to start, to get started. Now, I'm just going to repeat why the sitting after. So silent sitting, because in the gap between thought is our natural awareness. That is the Lama. By saying, Lama, be with me now, you get a taste of that. Then in the sitting, it's like so words are not quite good enough here, but it's like there's a brightness, and you can, in the gap between thought, there's a brightness. The taste is there. It's hard to explain. But it also brings the practice from, the head down into the heart. So it kind of makes it real, although it's quite real saying it. It gives space for the practice to have an impact, to work. Okay, but again, it's not about how many repetitions at all. It's just about being open. It's also not about how long. It's about the quality, about the openness. And it's also about letting anything that rises in terms of feeling rise. We do have a habit of pushing down the feelings that rise that we're unfamiliar with or uncomfortable with. So when I do this practice, I feel quite a strong devotion welling up, and my tears well up. It's quite strong, and in the context of this setting, put a little bit of lid on that. We need to continue to talk. So, but don't, when you're on your own doing this practice, don't let it happen. Let the warmth flow. Don't be afraid of it. Don't be afraid of feeling the intensity of that. Again, some of us might not feel anything at all. It might just be a simple thing that we do. We like to do it, and then, as I said, beneath the dualistic mind, which we are not in contact with, our own nature is doing the deal. There's this repeated connection that's happening over and over and over and over again. And so when we pass away, bang, we'll just automatically Lama, and that taste will be there because the dualistic mind will be gone. All right. And Mala, just to confirm what Deborah was saying in the chat, yes, like rosary beads. In fact, you can use rosary beads if you've got some. It does the same thing. It's just a counter. All right, so we'll do a little dedication, and then I'll turn the recording off and we can have a bit of a chat. So I will share the dedication in the chat for those of you who are not familiar with it. And then you can read it along with me if you want. By this effort, may all beings be free of fear, sorrow, and pain. May all beings know wellness, tranquility, and love. May all beings abide in the perfect bliss and equanimity of their true nature. Om.